And here we go. My name is Ian Blackburn. It's Wednesday evening around 7 o'clock, and it is time to zoom into wine. Every Wednesday, we get together with a really fun group of people, send out little tasting kits, and taste some great wines of the world together, getting to know about the places, the grapes, the conversation behind them, the producers, and love the group that we gather. It's been a little while since I've seen you because I just got back from an amazing trip to Argentina, and it was amazing. I'd love to blabber about it for a long period of time, but I'm going to do an Argentina Zoom in the future and be able to share a little bit more detail about the trip for those of you that are interested. Let's see what else happened recently. Let me see if I can remember. Oh yeah, my Dodgers won the World Series. How about that? I was so excited to be able to watch it in Buenos Aires at an Irish sports bar that apparently doesn't close because I saw people coming out of there at 7, 8 in the morning.
Yay.
Yeah, it was
Yeah.
quite fun, quite fun. So the group, we were all rooting for the Dodgers. Northern California included there, at least a test.
Me too. Me too.
Yeah, right. Uh, but I hope you guys enjoyed it. It was really, really fun, and I'm glad to be back and back with you. I probably have eaten enough beef for the rest of the year, maybe the rest of my life. I'm not sure, but wow, great food and a tremendous trip. Argentina, put it on your list. We went from Buenos Aires to Salta to Mendoza to Patagonia, back to Buenos Aires each time because you can't go straight. So 12 flights, 12 from from LA to there and back. It was a very physical trip, but really rewarding because we went to remote places. I'm just gonna leave it with one little story. We went to Colomé. We flew into Salta Airport, little teeny destination. Family picked us up in little trucks because you want the little trucks, not the big buses that go really slow. 4 hour plus drive and to the winery. It's the very first winery in Argentina. It was owned by Donald Hess. Magnificent, beautiful. He built a like it's about a 10-room hotel. Everybody lives on the property. They grow everything they eat. Just the best of people and the best of times. And my group just loved that visit. So if you want to do something really dynamic and special, go a little bit further. And it was really magnificent. The drive was actually spectacular because we're driving through the Andes Mountains and seeing just these incredible visuals. Really great. But do be careful about what part of the year you go in because rain would be a hellscape because all the roads are dirt. And I was literally watching a road wash away as a little bit of tropical rain came down on our way out. So we timed it perfectly. Anyway, let's go to our wines. Wine number one, we're talking about wines for fall. And of course, now that baseball's over, fall can officially begin. This daylight savings thing is kind of crazy. I'm getting the sun in my window. I don't know. I'm waking up I know I'm like a little bit jet lagged, but I'm waking up at like 4:30 in the morning and the sun is coming in the window. So it's a little bit weird. All right, here we go. I can see this first wine's a little special, so let's take a look. What do we got? Ah, yes. Wines for fall. This is our slideshow. It'll guide us through. Let's take it one slide at a time. We're starting off with, absolute must wine to try at this time of the year. Wine number one is a Beaujolais. And I carry a really fun selection of Beaujolais. Beaujolais is not the Beaujolais that your mom and dad grew up with. And nowadays it is part of the Burgundy category, and all wines of Burgundy have increased in price pretty significantly. Beaujolais remains a pretty good value, especially the one that we're tasting today. This is Marcel Lapierre. He is one of the gang of, I think it's four or five, that Kermit Lynch kind of gave life to. They are old school producers doing things very naturally. And as I look at the wine in my glass, it's almost milky. It's got this I'm still alive, I'm not even finished being turned into wine type of thing happening here. This is 2023, so it's been in the bottle for about a year. Let's go take a look. There's Beaujolais right at the southern tip of Burgundy. I got to take a group there in April, and Beaujolais is really special. Now, I don't want to go too deep here, but Beaujolais, part of the Kingdom of Burgundy, run by the Dukes of Burgundy, they banished the Beaujolais grape down into the Beaujolais area. It's called Gamay, and they knew that Beaujolais had this really different soil composition, mainly granitic soil, granite, and metal alloys like nickel and other type of metals are in the soil. So the Burgundian said, absolutely not. Can you plant our Pinot Noir in that soil? And so Beaujolais became the grape of that soil. That soil is really making some of the most exciting wines in the world. Granitic soils are throughout the southwest of France, the north of Spain, and really is something cool, sexy, but does kind of get in the way of a beautiful, elegant Pinot Noir. But spikes Gamay was something just a little bit interesting, dynamic. And then again, I want you to kind of have a volume knob, relative to the price point with Beaujolais, about what you should expect and how far it's going to take you. This is a fun wine. Okay, this is made to be like the fresh wine, not a Beaujolais Nouveau, which, by the way, destroyed the category of Beaujolais, because these Beaujolais wines were as important as Gevrey Chambertin in Burgundy back in the 40s and 50s. Beaujolais Nouveau came out in the 1960s as a way to kind of suck up the glut. This is a grape variety that loves to grow, and it loves to grow large crops. And you're talking about very vigorous soils. And so lots of Gamay can be grown. And if you don't plant it on the hillsides and you plant it on the valley floors, that's what they were doing. They were getting these huge yields. Now, hillsides stress the vines, and everything that Marcel Lapierre works with is grown like a bonsai plant, super low to the ground, only a few clusters per vine, really managing yield and making some really great wines. Now, this is a paragraph that should not be on a slide. Sorry about that, but it basically talks about the gang of four. And you can read that slide on the website about this wine. I'm just going to give you the overview here. Marcel Lapierre is, a fairly new brand. His father bought this property, kind of got involved with some old school ideas, making natural wine, harkening back to the traditional wines of Beaujolais, joined the Vignerons. Breton. Oops, somebody's got their volume up. Kill that for me. There you go. Guy Breton. Oh, I haven't found that volume yet. Somebody's got to turn it up. Wendy, I got you. Um, Guy Breton, Jean-Paul Thevenant. Okay, Theven. I think it's Theven. Jean Fayard. I carry wines from all these folks. And Marcel was a big part of that. Kermit Lynch dubbed them the Gang of Four, so it was four, not five. And again, no herbicides, pesticides, harvesting late, none of that cheating stuff. Really keeping it real, making some really pretty wines that you can be proud of. Marcel Lapierre did pass away. His son and his daughter Camille have taken over the project. Here you see them in the vineyards. Look at the the way they manage the vineyards. These are old vines. We're talking like 70, 80, 90, 100-year-old vines planted in this granite soil. I can tell this is a really exciting wine because I've got a fruit fly already coming to get it. There they are. It's called Raisins Goyot. And it's translated to Gaelic grapes, a Vin de France product produced from younger vines on the property. So when they have the old vines die off, they replant them and they use those young vines in this cuvee because they make wines from really old vines at this property. That's you can see the leaf, the way that the wines are trained very low to the ground. The soils are very sandy, very limestone and granite. So you've got all different types of things coming together there. It was kind of a mess of soils for the Burgundians, but perfect for Beaujolais. $20. This is considered a natural wine. They put it under screw cap even, further reducing the needs for additional sulfur. I'm going to click into the wine. You can see it on our website. I typically buy this wine about 10 cases at a time. Because I want a nice chunky Marcel Lapierre allocation of his really top end wines. B, because this wine just, some people just buy this by the case. This will be great for 2 more years or so. And I hope you guys like it. It's great with, Thanksgiving is the official wine. This is like the official style for Thanksgiving too. Fun, fruity. For anybody that has like red wine reactions, your allergies get kicked in, stuff like that, this would be the wine that anybody would recommend you drink. Alcohol's typically around 12%, and it has, very low color accumulation, which are where a lot of the allergens are. The food applications here are crazy cool. Burgers and Beaujolais, do it. It's super fun. Chill this down, treat it a little bit like a white wine. Um, Serve it with game, with bird, with lamb. I mean, everything. It could be your daily wine if you like this style. It's very earthy. You can really kind of smell some of that stone and stuff. My wine was open, and I've only got half a jar because we sold out this session. Um, and even the half jar is just like the way it was when I opened it. It's super fresh and alive. Unfined, unfiltered, and just made in a really cool way. And I hope you guys enjoy that as much as I do. Sometimes you just don't want something that complicated. This is just something you can pound and have a big glass of with a Philippe's roast beef slice sandwich, maybe turkey at Thanksgiving, um, you know, pizza, burgers, totally casual and really enjoyable. This is kind of one of my secret wines I sneak into the Hollywood Bowl. I don't even have to sneak it in there, but I don't even have to have a corkscrew. Um, I have been known to sneak in a bottle of wine to here and there places. This would be the type of I would do it with. So if you're gonna drink it out of a plastic cup or maybe sip it out of a Boda bag, this kind of, maybe even more wine than that deserves. Going back into our slideshow. We are in our Zoom into Wine annual membership period. We've got some really nice reactions so far. We're looking good. We're building out our 2025 calendar. There are some January events up now, maybe March. I've given our designer all the way through March, so I'm not sure where she's at. We'll take a look at it a little bit later. But we'd love to give you a year long of benefits. There's, like you save about $5 a, a session. That'll more than pay for the $60 annual membership. Even if you don't attend the Zooms, you'll still get the discount codes. So if you use those discount codes, you'll pay for the membership. So I really want it to be kind of self-sustaining for you and make it worth it. Plus, we always want to have a Zoom audience that we can go to and say, "Hey, we have got a couple of tickets. Let's go." And if you are here in Los Angeles, we've got a Wednesday coming up at the end of November where we're pulling together a really fun event called Stars of California Wine. And so I'm making you aware of it because you're going to be getting a note from us in the next day or so as one of our great clients and inviting you to the Stars of California Wine. It's going to be at one of LA's best restaurants called Republique. And we've got 20 wineries there all night long. There's an 8 p.m., there's a 7 p.m., there's a 6:30 early entrance. This has got like caviar and oysters and things like that for the 6:30 VIP. 7 o'clock has got just a ton of tray passed foods, a little bit less food on the 8 p.m. ticket, just being real. But unlimited wine tasting with a really tremendous list of top winemakers coming to the event, pouring their wines from all over California, top Zinfandel, top Santa Barbara Pinot, Chardonnay. And I've got this VIP dinner ticket on this event that's really cool. You get to come in on the 6:30, enjoy the event till 8 o'clock, and then you'll sit down with a couple of the winemakers, start having dinner, and the winemakers will kind of circle through. It's like a 7 or 8 course meal. The chef at Republic just makes it really like that day farmers market type stuff, and you're going to taste some wines from each of the wineries that are at the Stars of California. But they're going to be wines that aren't at the event. It's just something from their library. So it's kind of like a library dinner. And it's all inclusive in that ticket price. So it's actually a pretty fair deal for getting the full event and dinner with tip and tax and all that stuff wrapped in with some great wine. So check that out. We raised some money for Children's Hospital Los Angeles, and that is a little bit longer commercial than I intended, but get me going. Next week in Zoom into Wineland, we've got Pinot Noir. We've only got a couple of those left. Our next Zoom after that will be our Heroes of Cabernet. And so I'm going to spend a minute just making sure you see what we're doing for the Heroes of Cabernet, because I've got some really cool interviews. We're going to be talking to some of the best in the business in wine, and we're pulling that together right now. And the wine list is ridiculous. So get involved, grab a ticket. We will sell this one out. It's not going to be as big as maybe we would otherwise hope it could be. We're just going to be working really hard in December, but we want to have a really great result with this event. And if it goes over as big as I think it will, we'll do another Heroes of Cab in a couple of months. Moving into wine number two. So we go from Beaujolais to Pinot Noir. It's fall. This remains my favorite time of the year. We just exited my birthday month. So I kind of carry it over into November a little bit. 75 degrees in sunny Southern California. It's so beautiful. Um, Natalie, we'll get a weather update from you if it's maybe already snowing up there. But um, we see the seasonality start to change with the food. We see some, dried fruits start to enter into some of the cuisine. We see some different preparations, maybe even some more braised and longer, slower cooking methods being used. Pinot Noir is a lot of fun, and there's so many different possibilities. That's why next week we're going to do kind of some top Pinots of the world. Um, this week we're showing off this particular wine from Alfaro, and next week we are doing their high-end reserve in the lineup. Really a cool small family brand from the Santa Cruz Mountains. Don't give enough love to Santa Cruz Mountains. This is a great place to go wine tasting. Their benchmark producers like Ridge and Mount Eden really kind of get a lot of the attention up there. But there's some really small, cool families, and this is one of them. Richard Alfaro and his entire family are really involved. His son is actually becoming the winemaker, Ryan Spencer, and they've got about a 50-acre farm. They grow a ton of different grape varieties. They make some Gruner Veltliner, Pinot Noir, Chardonnay, Cabernet. But this guy, this kid, this son is really a freak of nature, good looking, big boned dude, great head of hair. Always jealous of guys who have big heads of hair. But really focused on the natural elements of the wine that's up there, and using some stem inclusion and really keeping it fun and zesty. This one's kind of fighting to be a value price point. The single vineyard Gulch wine that they make is not expensive, but probably double the price. That's what we're tasting next week. This one's $25, 92 points, finished with screw cap. This is a lot of wine for $25. In the state of California, there's not a lot of estate-based Pinot Noirs that can hit this price point. It's even better than I remember it being. That cherry skin, so like red cherry fruit. Mm, that's so good. And 25 bucks. And when I buy for the store, I'll go up here, I'm gonna look at Pinot Noir. I'm always looking at price points, and I want to make sure I have something at almost every price point. Um, where there's a lot of volume in this lower tier, but it's harder to find stuff that you love. I love this little wine, and I think 25 is kind of where like magic starts to happen. A couple of months ago, we had the Blood Root. We really had some great success with that wine. We'll be bringing back the next vintage here. We're probably out of stock, maybe the last bottle in stock on that one, but the Alfaro is just kind of come into the store. I want to introduce it. Maybe not very many people have tried this wine before, and this is kind of fun. You know what? Maybe wine isn't under screw cap because the picture it doesn't have it under screw cap, but I think it is. I think it is. Yeah, says that in the description. That's why it is. I don't have the bottle right next to me. I should. But really a nice little estate wine. This is their entry level, their A, they call it. And Santa Cruz Mountains makes some great and dynamic wines, some very long aging, some very expensive Pinot Noirs too up there. Some really benchmark producers. And I put it right up there as one of the best appellations in the state for Pinot. Um, but maybe the least thought of unless you live around Santa Cruz Mountains. And that's probably where they sell most of the wine and drink it. So a nice little find, something to remind you of Santa Cruz Mountains and Alfaro Estate Wines. I got them both in the store right now. I'll probably carry just one after we move through one of these cases. I like to have one wine from the producers I love, and I've always really thought these guys were good. And in fact, I even elevate this wine, now in my mind after tasting it just now. I'm like, that's really good. I do have to remember I've been drinking gallons of Malbec for the last couple of weeks. So maybe I'm just really loving the wine a little too much tonight. But I think that's pretty damn good. What do you think there, Tom? You're not too far away from there.
No, not too far away. I've had their wine before, but it's been a long time. This is like a great reintroduction to it. It's for 25 bucks. It's an unbelievable Pinot. It's got that sort of Santa Cruz Mountains raciness to it, if you will. Uh,
Yeah.
yeah, I mean it's really nice. Really
And
nice.
that little wine probably ages pretty nicely for 5, 6, 7 years
Yeah,
too. I mean,
yeah.
those things are built like battle axes, and the expensive ones maybe even punish you a little bit sometimes if you drink them too young. But uh, yeah, they've got a lot of stamina and the kind of the extreme conditions up there in the mountains. Very steep, a lot of angle, stressed vines, great sunshine, amazing wind, lots of rain. Conditions are perfect for Pinot.
And you say the higher end one's going to be next week in the Pinot,
That's
right?
my
That'd be
Pinot.
nice.
Yeah.
Yeah.
All right. So we've gone from Beaujolais to Pinot Noir. I'm going to keep the grape variety color a little lighter, but this next wine is pretty spectacular. Maybe one of my favorite wines to even. Sometimes I buy wine and I'm like, I got to get a little extra of that wine because I think I'm going to want to drink some of that myself. And, you can only do that so many times. I've done it maybe a few hundred too many times, but this wine haunts me. There's wines I buy sometimes where I buy them and I'm like, people call me and what's new? What should I try? And this is like the first thing I think of almost every day right now. I've had this wine in the store for about 2 months. I've already reordered it twice, and it's now out of stock. That I got the last 3 cases. Next vintage will probably be not too long. It's 2021. But wow, do I love this, and I hope you do too. Let's go and taste the Montesecondo. Hey, Lisa, if you want to correct my Italian, I know you're Italian at heart.
Montescondo. Let me see the name again.
Sure, thank you. I press the button and you say it. Bonk.
Yeah, Montesecondo, I think.
I agree. Montesecondo. We're right outside of the Chianti, well, actually inside of the Chianti zone, but they're not calling this Chianti. But this is a winemaker who kind of did some years abroad, went back home, his own property, and said, what wine will his own land give him? His father purchased the land in the 1960s, and they have 10 hectares, which is about 25 acres. Sangiovese, Caniolo, Colorino, Cabernet. These are all DOCG grape varieties. Yes, Cabernet is part of the Chianti mix as of the year 2000. Chianti 2000 laws allowed for Cabernet to be included in small amounts. You do have to have, I think, 90% Sangiovese, and then the rest can be whatever. But here's where it gets different. This guy's biodynamic. He does nothing to the wine. I mean, it's really a natural path wine. Doesn't even add additional sulfur. It's not an old vineyard, but being farmed really small, really tight, really, look at the, you can see the different types of plants that are growing in between the vines. Biodynamics, very alive, there's flowers, there's vegetable, there's herbs. 100% Sangiovese in this wine. He makes some higher tier stuff that gets all the other grape varieties involved, but this one is just a pure Sangiovese. And lower altitude, warmer, flatter, with heavier clay soils. I tasted this wine and I said, my review, the wine, I even said the wine haunts me. I said that 2 months ago when I bought it. Look at that. But of course, it has a tannic frame like a Cybertruck. This thing is, Italian wines are known for their punctuated tannin and acidity, and this wine does not fall short. You look at this wine in the glass, it's not as light as the Gamay or the Pinot, but it's a youthful wine. It's not super dark, so I think you're kind of a little bit surprised at how much punch it has. I love the nose. The nose just smells like a stone, like almost like a tea bag full of stones. Really beautiful fruit, spice. It's lighter, leaner than a Chianti. There's no wood here. 100% concrete. Natural yeast, natural fermentation, no sulfur. Light and crispy. This guy looks like he has a fun life. 25 bucks. They make some $150 wines here. This wine, yeah, there are Chiantis you could buy for 20 to 25 bucks, some very large producers, but this one falls into that natural wine quality. I think it's plus on the quality side though, and really beautiful definition, soft and fruity. It's got that just really nice body to it, and so much fun with food. You can always smell like the dried Italian meats in a wine like this, kind of even some of the like fennel and some of the herbs and spices that you'd put into, something like a salumi. It doesn't have that powerful, thick richness that would speak to a more expensive wine. But there's something very singular to it, very pretty and powerful at the same time. So kind of like that steel fist in a velvet glove type of a thing that they talk about a lot. Hope you guys enjoyed the Chianti wine. What did you think, Lisa? You're our future Italian.
Mi piace. It's light. It is light, like you said. But I like it.
I like it.
Yeah, I like it. It's not for like a really super rich kind of meal, but it's nice.
It's nice.
Good for starter with some antipasti. Like you said, some nice salami, some nice cheese.
Natalie? Is your husband cooking for you tonight?
He was earlier. Remember, it's 9:40 here, so
Oh,
dinner is past. But we had a great stir fry, chicken stir
okay.
fry this evening.
Oh.
So
In Argentina, they don't even start eating until 10 at night, by the way. I went to a restaurant that got a Michelin, I think it was a Michelin 2 star in Buenos Aires. Don Julio is called. Fantastic. We had this huge excursion. We got back and some of the guests were exhausted. But we hadn't eaten anything, so some people just wanted to go grab something light. And I look at two of my more energized travelers and I said, "You guys hungry?" And they're like, "We're starving. We're ready to go." And I'm like, "Do you want to go try Don Julio?" And we got into Don Julio at 12:30 at night. And that's when we started eating dinner.
well, that's awesome. Well, I love the concrete funk in this one. You can always taste when it's fermented in concrete.
I agree.
One of my favorite things about
That's
wine.
I'm glad you noticed that. I think it is it's a hint fresher because of the concrete than if you put it into wood. And it doesn't have that wood kind of toothpick feel, kind of weighting it down. I like that elevated freshness. It is a little lighter, and probably showing a little bit lighter just because of the wines that we had before it. But if you're going out to dinner for, an Italian meal, I think this one would actually surprise you with how much this will keep up with the food. But yeah, it's been selling very, very well if you like that wine, and I think that price is good. Grab a couple and surprise yourself with this. Even something, you know, not that lasagna is very Tuscan, but that's what I'm craving, and I would love to have that with some lasagna. All right, we'll move into wine number 4 now. Kermit Lynch, we talked about him earlier. Very famous Northern California retailer, especially when it comes to small family-owned French wines. Kermit's made a bloody fortune being the guy who started importing wines from the south of France and from Chablis and from Burgundy. Really focused on the smaller guys. And now, he has all these exclusives that he probably making more money than the producers are. But he's very good at his business, and I like carrying some Kermit Lynch wines. Now, occasionally, he gets into some deals where he uses a couple of his great contacts there. Maybe they make a wine that they don't want to market at a lower price point. He's like, "Hey, the market's asking for something, quite affordable. Let's use my name, keep your name a little more elevated. And we'll just call it Kermit Lynch Côte de Rhône." This is Côte de Rhône Villages, by the way, so it's kind of an elevated bump up from just the Côte de Rhône. Southern Rhône. There's quite a few Côte de Rhône villages that you can use, dotted all throughout here. So anything that's kind of got a named village, you can make Côte de Rhône wine from. He does change the artwork on the label when he goes for it. He doesn't make the wine every year either. He really kind of goes after it when it's a better vintage. You can see one of the reasons why the Rhône is important in these two pictures. Look at the stones. They're called galets. On the left, you really see rounded stones because the Rhône River is just this like freeway of water that's blowing out of the Alps down through the south of France. And it took all the topsoil away. rounded out all these rocks for miles and miles. And the vines just grow in the stone. They call it the blood of stones, the Sang de Caillou from the south of France, from the Rhône Valley. Grenache is the primary grape in the southern part of the Rhône Valley, but you can use a lot of different grape varieties. And this one hits the big five, I'll say: Syrah, Mourvèdre, Carignan, and Cinsault. There are 33 different Rhône grape varieties. However, a lot of them are white, by the way. The cuvee is sourced from Gaulois trained vines. So these are small producing vines, rocky alluvial soils as Châteauneuf-du-Pape, just across the Rhône. Real epic hillsides, stone formations. They get these winds that blow for like weeks at a time through the Rhône Valley. They're called the Mistrals. Also, another reason they don't have much topsoil is the winds blow really hard and long, kind of drive people a little crazy. They think a lot of the winemakers in the Rhône Valley are a little nuts because of the winds. $16. This is Côte Rhône. It is there are quite a few Côte Rhônes that you pay less, pay more. I've got some Côte Rhônes that approach $30. Actually, I've got a $60 Côte Rhône from a producer who makes $300 bottles of wine. So you can pay at different price points. But what's cool about this wine is it's not from a big cooperative mass producer where the growers aren't making any money. This is really kind of something that was made from some really good producers as a way to kind of come in on value, but to not have to put their name on it. They make it for Kermit, and he sells it at the right price so that we could sell it for $15.95, and I'm probably even lower on price on my website than Kermit is. Let's taste it, see how it is before we get to the next wine. Again, not a wine that has a ton of wood or anything, but lots of spice. Like, I just got a big nose full of cinnamon, brown spice, some olive. Typically looking for things like tomato plant or tomato, like you walked into a tomato plant to pick tomatoes. But this one's throwing that Syrah around pretty hard right now. You get a lot of the smokiness from the Syrah. Nice mouthfeel. Taste a little more premium than a lot of Côte Rhônes. As the nights get a little cooler, maybe you're moving away from some of the summer whites and the sparklings. You're starting the evening off with a little glass of red. You could keep this in the refrigerator once it's open and preserves it a little bit. I like to drink a wine like this just a little on the cooler side. This is kind of perfect for having like stewed meats. There's quite a few classic Rhône dishes. Beef bourguignon would be very common as well. And this is just a kind of the right wine for cooler cooler months kind of takes you from here to the end of the year. And but you can also do this with some great barbecue. Getting some comments. I'm not paying attention to the chat bar. Thanks, Thomas. I'm glad you like the wine. Wine and the values here. There's just a lot of wine for the money in some of these guys. If you buy them right, I'm glad you get to taste them and decide which ones you like too. That's kind of fun. Sometimes you buy a $20 bottle of wine, it's a real stinker. And sometimes I buy wines, I'll buy a wine, I'll fall in love with it. 6 months go by, gotta revisit it. I didn't like that as much as I once did, or maybe it's just kind of moved and changed around a little bit, or maybe I bought some stuff that I like a little bit more. These so far have been pretty on point. Kind of proud of them so far.
Yeah, you should be. And these are fantastic for what I mean, just beautiful ones. Thank you. Keep going.
Thanks, man. Thank you. You are invited back every week. We're going to go into wine number 5. This has been kind of a wine that I've dug for years. Filipa Pato. I was really hoping at some point to get to meet her in Portugal. But I didn't get to Bairrada or Bairrada. So I'm going to try to get back to Portugal in the next couple of years. This is a wine called Baga. And here is the area that it's from. When I went to Portugal this last time, I stayed in Lisbon, and then we went out to the Alentejo. Then we drove very quickly north up into Porto. We drove through this area, I'm sure, but we didn't have time to make any appointments. But there's just so much to see, so many brands. I mean, look at this list. It's crazy. And this is a grape variety that we don't spend a lot of time talking about in America, but it's definitely been on the come for a while. This woman gets featured in like the New York Times about every other year. She's constantly getting like winemaker of the year, female winemaker of the year, spectator. I'm going to guess that in the next 3 months, you're going to pick up a wine magazine and there's going to be a brand new article about this woman because she makes really inspiring wines. We're talking, Portugal is like a grape growing wonderland. Got incredible Mediterranean ocean front real estate, stone for days, kind of a land that became famous for big dessert wines. So nobody really knew about all of these great dry reds. And the port wine industry is absolutely dying. When I mean port, like the fortifieds, they're so good. I don't want them to go away, but they're just not very popular right now. We'll just have to, maybe somebody will make a movie like Sideways on port wine and it'll come flying back. It's going to happen. It's just too good. But in the meantime, these, with all the natural wines that are coming out in the world and the ideas of regenerative farming, sustainability, and then price point again, this woman just absolutely kicks ass and makes some really fantastic wines. Very, very accomplished. 100% Baga, Baga. That is the name of the grape. I'm hoping this is your first Baga. For some of you that drink Baga on occasion, I think you'll agree this is a good one.
Is there any grape here, Ian, that you'd compare Baga to? It has unique taste to me. This is the first time I've ever had any wine made with Baga grapes.
Well, I think Portugal has a unique taste to it. It is rugged. I think the Portuguese, I mean, if you can imagine back in like the 1500s, 1600s, I mean, you look at a map, it's like, whoa, that looks like some sweet real estate. But have you ever seen like the pictures of the surfers in Portugal surfing 100-foot waves? Nothing happens in Portugal in a modest way. It's gigantic waves, massive, physical features, cliffs, really, a lot of the Portuguese people, live in the major cities. So the rural areas are very out there and kind of abandoned. Portugal's had some up and downs with the economy, and I think they're in the right way right now. Of course, I think everybody on this Zoom probably knows somebody that moved to Portugal, and maybe after what happened yesterday, more of us will be moving to Portugal. But the fact is that this place is really attractive, and there's so many things that are happening in Portugal. So let's taste the Baga together, and then we can kind of connect to it. This isn't a bottle of wine that's under $20, and I'm not sure it's going to be as loved as some of the other wines because this is pretty unique stuff. When you smell that, you smell like there's like a raw, unrefined, kind of wild berry. She's completely biodynamic. So almost spiritual grape growing using the cycles of the moon, natural winemaking, 100% off of their estate. Oh, wait a second. This says State Vineyard, and then partially from other growers. So that's how she probably makes this particular rendition. She has a $30, $36, $40 version as well that pure estate, but recently this wine was sitting in my store and I had like 3 cases of it. And in 1 week, and I had it for a month or so and hadn't sold a bottle. And all of a sudden, Sunday comes along, oh, an order for the Baga, another order, another order, another order, and I knew after like 5 orders on a day where I might get 6, 7, 8 orders on a Sunday, they were all had Baga. I got to look in the magazine. Somebody just wrote her up, and that's exactly what had just happened. When I went to Portugal, I took a group to Alentejo, and one of the places we went sat us down and they had roasted in a whole goat. And we were like a party of 20. We were a pretty big group. It was so magnificent. The food was so good. And all the, produce was off of the farm, salad, some wonderful rice, and I get some really definitely some unique. I would almost kind of lean into the vegetable, herb, garden, spices and stuff. It's pretty tender. maybe a lot in common with some of the Beaujolais that we just had because it's so minerally. But I love the minerality here. There's a lot of that minerality. Again, it's very Portuguese. And there's quite a few savory things happening. And, it's not just candied fruit, a lot of like leafy stem, herb, dried herb, um, different type of olive type of things happening here. Super fun with food, especially with that. If you're going to roast a whole goat by any time soon. But just went to this little when I was in southern Patagonia. There's this little village. All they make there is lamb, and they have like restaurant after restaurant with these wood fire pits, and they just roast lamb all day long on these fire pits. That would go good with this wine too. There's kind of a theme going on here that I didn't realize up until now. I didn't really put this together to be such a value presentation, but we've covered, a couple of a wine from France, a wine from California, a wine from Italy, a wine from Portugal, and they all do have incredible value, but they're so good. And it's not just I wasn't thinking, oh, this is under 25 bucks. Let's do that one. Let's do that one. That wasn't really the theme here. It just happens that these wines are a little less called for, a little on the come, like they're still, I mean, certainly the Beaujolais producers, very famous. The rest of them are relatively obscure. And the reason that Filipa Pato sold a bunch of wine all in one day is she got an article, and she's just a magnet for that kind of stuff because she's, kind of writing all the topicality of today's winemaking world and making a wine that's really authentic and keeping that price real. So we'll change gears in a big and blustery way, going to an old school story from the Napa Valley. Just happens I had the Napa Valley in town today. They did a trade tasting downtown LA, and I got to help promote it and get some of our top buyers there. Some really great wines, different price points and stuff. Starting to see some innovation in the category of Merlot. Now, Merlot, try not to make this too windy, but we all know that Merlot just blew up in the late 1990s and crashed and burned somewhere around the launching of the movie Sideways. Whether Sideways had anything to do with it or not, the industry really burned it itself out. I mean, we just commoditized the hell out of this wine, grape. So Merlot, people don't walk into restaurants very often and say, I want a Merlot. But Merlot is still so important in the wine world. It is the backbone grape of Bordeaux. It has blended into almost every Cabernet you're going to buy in California. Maybe it's 5%, maybe it's 10%. You know what the most expensive red wine outside of Burgundy is in the world? Merlot. I make one in Bordeaux called Petrus. I make one in Italy made by one of the great producers there, Ornellaia. Masetto. Masetto is about $1,200 to $1,500 bottle of wine. Petrus is God knows what. 5, $8,000, depending on what vintage we're tasting per bottle. So Merlot still has a path to success, but California Merlot was obliterated. But what a lot of people didn't realize is the #1 selling red wine in America for the past 10 plus years is a little wine called Menage a Trois, and that's where all the Merlot went. That is the backbone of Menage a Trois, and they don't call it Merlot, but people still love it. And all of a sudden, I'm like seeing producers, little green shoots coming back. 20 years later now, Merlot is starting to resurface. Still not an easy sell. It sells for a fraction of the price of a Cabernet. It is not necessarily the wine that some people think it was or whatever. Peter Franus is an old school winemaker, and he's been making this wine for a long time. Continues to make it because he owns the vineyard. And so a very respected producer right on the northern tip of Carneros, where Carneros enters the Napa Valley. You can make wine in Carneros and call it Napa. Nice little marketing message here. Deep ruby, bordering on opaque. 17 Merlot offers a captivating and complex nose of black, cherry, plum, thyme, sweet oak notes. Merlot, when I was in the room today, there were so many Cabernets over $100 a bottle. And Franus, tries to sell this wine for north of $40, but it's not an easy sell. I was able to pick some up for a really special deal. We have 17 vintage, so it's got 7-ish years in the bottle. And it's a pure play on Merlot, pure play on Napa Valley. Pretty ripe. They'll talk in the wine tasting notes here. 17 was I remember 17, it got really hot, really hot. And there's like a really fun and exciting kind of exclamation point in the middle of this nose. Pretty warm, pretty ripe. Chocolate and cherries. So I started looking on the website and seeing what I have in Merlot. On the website, we kind of market them together with Cab Franc. A lot of Bordeaux in the sub 20 price point. You got to get all the way up to $29 before we get a California Merlot on this list. But then I started seeing, okay, I've got a $40 Merlot. This used to be like 50, $60. I got a $60 Merlot from Robert Foley. That's pretty damn yummy. Got a $90 Merlot, $100 Merlot. And the wines are great. So I'm excited to continue these and have you join us. We're making some really fun inroads, mixing it up too. We're just not hitting repeat on the Zoom sessions. I think it will even hit a higher, not more expensive, but higher plateau of quality in the next year with some of the efforts that we're going to make. And thank you guys for supporting it. Have a good night, everybody, and I'll talk to you soon. Ciao, ciao.
Good night.
Thank you, Richard.
Very enjoyable.
Awesome.